Alright, maybe I was wrong about Pax Unplugged last year. What's up, everybody? Jeff here, and I just got back from Pax Unplugged, which is a yearly convention that goes on in Philly. And this was my second time going, and last year I had a really good time when I went, but I found that the con was a lot more focused on board games, and because of that, there wasn't a ton of stuff for me to do there. Not that I'm not interested in board games, but I'm just not as interested as I am in things like miniatures and war games. But this time around, it actually seems like the con had shifted the focus a little bit more towards those types of things that I'm really into. And it felt a little bit more like something like Gen Con than just a board game convention like it sort of felt like last year. And because of that, I had an absolute blast. I did so much cool stuff. I got to talk to and meet so many different interesting people and check out some really sick games. If you've been following my channel for any amount of time, then you probably know that I love going to conventions like this. And I encourage everybody out there, if you have a local convention, definitely try to make the time to go check it out. But if you didn't get a chance to go this year, then stick around because I have all kinds of cool stuff, including interviews and talks with some of the people from the Wyrd community and all kinds of good stuff. One of the interesting things about PAX Unplugged in particular is that this con has a big focus on actually playing games. A lot of times you can go to a con like Adepticon or Gen Con and there's the big show floor and you can go shopping and there's like tournaments, but not so much just like open play. There are open play areas, but there's a huge section of the PAX Unplugged show floor that's just dedicated to open tables where people can rent games or bring their own games and just sit down and play. And that's what I ended up doing for a lot of the time I was at PAX Unplugged last year. This time around, I didn't get so much open play, just random gaming in because there was just too many other things going on. But because of that, the con has a little bit more of a laid-back and relaxed vibe, and I kind of like that. I ended up spending a lot of my time hanging out in the tournament and the miniatures area, and one of the cool things about PAX Unplugged is that they do actually have a miniature painting contest. Now, I didn't get to stick around to see who any of the winners were, but I did get to see a lot of the entries, and unfortunately, it's kind of hard to film this stuff through the glass, but there were some really gorgeous models here. I really like the fact that these models run the gamut. There's all different game systems represented here. It's not just a Games Workshop fest. I've always kind of been tempted myself to enter into a painting competition, but I never spend that much time on one individual model that I feel like it's worth putting in a painting contest. I don't know. Maybe I'll enter it in the future. If you've entered a painting competition at a place like this, then drop a comment below and let me know what that experience was like for you. But for now, I'm just a spectator, and I like going over there and just oogling the minis. Walking around on the show floor at PAX is a really cool experience because you're going to see all sorts of different companies, from RPG developers to party board game makers to miniature war games and kind of bespoke display miniatures companies, pretty much anything you can think of. But of course, I had to make my way over to Wyrd because that's how I get down, and they had a really cool booth set up where they were actually demoing all of their new board games. They put out a bunch of new games in the last couple of months, including Smile and Pocket Cats. And both of those games are really cool and interesting. Pocket Cats in particular is really interesting to me because it's super, super lightweight and really quick and easy to play. And it seems like all of these games were a big hit. They weren't doing wild demos while we were there because that game's not out until next month, but I have had a chance to play it before, and it's also really cool. And of course, they had Vagrant Song, which is their kind of smash hit board game that's been like a huge success for them. And they recently just launched a Kickstarter with the expansions, which included the packs with the miniatures for the game. Now, I actually received my Kickstarter just before I left for PAX, so I didn't even get a chance to unwrap them or check them out, but they were actually on display in an open display case at the Wyrd booth, and that was really cool because it was the first chance I got to see them up close. These are really interesting models because they are very different from what you might expect from Wyrd. They have a very different art style to them, obviously. It's very much along the lines of what you see in Vagrant Song. And the models are proportioned a little bit differently than what you might expect from Wyrd, but I was really pleased. They look like they were extremely good quality, and one of the cool and really exciting things is that they are planning on producing miniatures for the Haints going down the line. I couldn't get them to tell me when we should expect something like that, but they did tell me that they are still doing it, and that's really cool because there's some really interesting characters in that game, and I'm curious how some of them are going to look as a physical model. Some of them are a little weird, but we'll see. And of course, they also had stuff for Malifaux and the other side, as well as Through the Breach, their RPG. And there was even some early releases of some of the new Malifaux stuff that's coming up in the next month or so. I hadn't seen the model for Bash yet, and he's a big chunky alligator, and it's really cool, so I'm excited to get my hands on him. Unfortunately, they weren't selling them at the booth, or else I would have definitely picked one up. Now, there were 2 Malifaux events scheduled at PAX Unplugged this year. Shoutouts to Ethan and Brandon from the Danger Planet for putting those together. And one of them was a double random rush. Now, I'd actually seen double random rushes going on before, but I've never participated in one. And I guess I didn't really understand exactly how they work, so let's go to Brandon, who's going to explain.
We set out a bunch of like 3 model crews that you get randomly assigned to each round with a random partner who's also assigned to a crew, and you play like a 6 model 2v2 game.
So you're getting a random crew and a random teammate.
Yes.
Every round.
Yep.
And then
it doesn't matter.
To figure it out.
You just have to figure it out. It
I kind of love that.
And it scores individually. So even though it's like a team thing, because you're not sticking with one partner the whole time, every game it'll just pretend like you were playing a solo game for score. So like if you win 8-4, you just get to win that round.
Yeah.
And your teammate gets to win that round, and your 2 opponents get to lose that round. And then whoever has the best record at the end of however many rounds I feel like doing gets a prize.
It sounds like chaos, and I'm kind of into it.
It's cool. You get an opportunity to play crews you never play.
Right.
You get an opportunity to play with people, which is not usually a Malifaux thing, and against 2 people. And it's like who can pick up what the fastest. And the way that Wyrd has it set up is they're roughly built around the Malifaux Burns, Enforcer, and dual master boxes. So like usually it'll be the 2 masters that appeared in a box together, and like one of them gets the Burns Enforcer and then some combo-y models that share mechanics.
Right.
But you can do it your own, you can do it yourself. We've messed around with some ideas for things, but yeah, it's really cool.
Really interesting game type. I think I'm going to have to try using this for some of the more casual players or the newer players in my area, just to kind of throw them in the game and give them an idea of how things work in a little bit more of a casual format. But I really love the idea of just trying to figure out how a crew works that you may have never played before. It's kind of interesting. But anyway, that event was on Friday, and then on Saturday and Sunday we had a normal Gaining Grounds tournament, and there wasn't a huge show out for that, unfortunately, but it was still a fun time, and it was really cool to get to meet and hang out with everybody. All right, so we just wrapped up the Feast of December tournament at Pax Unplugged, the first inaugural. Hopefully this will be an ongoing thing, and I figured maybe we chat with some of the people. We have Mr. Kevin. How was your feasting and your Decembering?
Exhausting.
Exhausting? Yeah. No, I'm pretty shot. I feel like I need to take a nap.
I have 2 brain cells left. Well, to sleep.
Well, that's one more than you started with, so that's good.
That's true. I borrowed one from my opponent's team.
And we have David, the presumptive winner of the Feast of December. So you ran Nikima all 3 rounds, right?
Yep.
How did you feel about your performance with Nikima?
I felt like I benefited from a very strong crew and being incredibly goddamn lucky. Like,
You say lucky, but skill plays a much bigger part of it than luck.
it can set you up for it, but the cards are going to be there or not.
Yeah, I think you're just being humble. But I actually got a game against you. It was actually a very good game. It ended up, I think, 6-4. You took a game off me, and no, it was a ton of fun. Nikima 2 has ways to make lots of extra things, and it's bad. And if you let her do that, it'll be bad, and she'll kill all of your stuff.
Just hot tip, just charge her. She is super fragile and will die.
There you go. Well, congratulations on the win. And I actually just got to run a game against Benel, who is, it's been a long time coming. We've been talking about this for a long time. We luckily got to face each other. How was your experience at the Feast of December?
Well, I ain't got no voice no more.
Yeah. You've been doing a silly cowboy accent for the whole time.
I've been doing a silly cowboy accent, and at some point in the middle of the game, I was like, I can no longer do this accent.
Yeah.
My voice is about to go out.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I had a great time. Jeff got an easy dub.
That's not true.
Very easy dub. I got smashed in the face by Tony. That's what you get for going against the Union. You break your thumbs.
I mean, listen, we're the good guys, so we're supposed to win.
Yeah, it's weird that they had to fight these non-union ghosts. These ghosts didn't have their union rep on.
Now, here's what I want to know. You're playing Outcasts.
Yeah.
There are cowboys and Outcasts that would go along with the getup. Yeah. But you were playing the spooky ghost boys. Why?
Because that's what was available to me at the time.
Got it.
And some of these ghosts are cowboys. So
maybe they used to be cowboys. I think they're ghosts.
If you're a cowboy once, you're always cowboy.
Is that the rules of cowboys?
Yeah, that's how cowboys. You just heard ghost cows. That's what happened.
I learned something new today about being a cowboy.
You
Are
don't.
you no longer a cowboy?
Right.
You only hang up your spurs after you die, but also you still have to herd cattle in the afterlife. They have to cow graze in the afterlife.
I'm gonna have to check the deep Malifaux lore to find out if this is.
Look, we can go to the
accurate.
booth right now, and we can go to the booth right now. We can talk to them about adding ghost cows in the next expansion.
Nice. I'm gonna go see if I can hunt down Brandon because he's in charge of this whole shindig, and I want to go home and sleep. I ended up taking home second place, which is pretty exciting, but we all know that Tony Ironsides is number 1. I was really holding her back. It's my fault. Now, while I was at PAX, I also got a chance to catch up with the Mythicos guys because they were at PAX for the first time, showing off their game Mythic Americas. If you don't know much about Mythic Americas, then check out some of the videos that I've done over the past couple of weeks, because we went out to their place in Jersey and did all kinds of cool Mythic Americas stuff, and there's a bunch of videos up about that. It's a really cool game about the native cultures of the Americas, everything from the Inuit all the way down to the Incas in South America. And it's a game that's really expanding, and they're currently like putting out an RPG in the next couple of weeks. It's really awesome stuff. Hey, Father Time, you're becoming like a regular on my channel.
Like a legend.
Yeah, you just hear all the time.
At the
It's
conventions.
awesome.
Yeah, it's great.
So we got Mythic Americas. If you don't know, then you messed up. Go rewind a couple of videos and find some info on Mythic Americas. This is you guys' first time at PAX Unplugged, yeah?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is.
How's the show going?
It's going well.
Yeah.
I mean, yesterday was, kind of ramping up, but today's killing.
Yeah.
It's been great. It's a good spot, a lot of gaming going on, so you get a lot of foot traffic.
Yeah.
There's a good RPG crowd, so, we're talking about the book
Right.
we're about to release.
Coming out.
That's a big, Heroes of Mythic Americas,
Yeah.
RPG supplement to D&D, all of the Mythic
Coming soon-ish?
It's done. Digital copy's done. Now we're in print.
Cool. Awesome.
So if you go and you still back it up, we'll send you the digital copy right now.
Yeah, awesome. Anything else new and fresh and hot going on? I know we got 2 factions coming soon as well.
Chachapoya is being sculpted right now.
Nice.
The People of the Totem, that's Pacific Northwest, is also being sculpted right now. And we have the Polynesian Kingdoms in design and early play testing. New mechanics coming to the game. The water mechanics is going to be fun.
Do you have any kind of time frame in mind for those? I know obviously it's always a moving target, but
That's going to be like, I'm guessing, first quarter 25. We wanted to put together a 2-player box set for the holidays, but
not possible.
it ain't going to happen, no. So I assume that we'll be doing that early to 2025.
Cool. Well, I'll let you get back to it because a line has formed while we've been standing here.
Cool.
But always good talking to you. Now, off camera, I was talking to the Mythicos guys, and they were mentioning that they're thinking about next year having a tournament at PAX Unplugged, and maybe also planning a couple of other events throughout the course of next year for the game. So keep an eye on this space if you're interested in that, because I will definitely be involved with it. Now, another first-time attendee at the con this year was Mantic. And I was really excited to go over there and see what was going on with Halo and all of their other games. And it seems like they had a really great experience at the con. By the time I got over there, they had already sold out of the Spartan edition of Halo. Apparently, it's super hard to get your hands on. I think the second print of pre-orders is already sold out. So if you're looking for a copy of Halo, then definitely try to get one as soon as you possibly can, because it's a little crazy. They were running demos of that and Worms, and they were showing off a whole bunch of other cool stuff. And I got a chance to catch up with Ronnie, who I chatted with a couple weeks ago on the channel. Ronnie from Mantic, always exciting to see you and get to chat.
Yeah, it was always good to talk to you as well.
How's PAX Unplugged going?
Well, we've never done the show, so it was an interesting, last I'm going to see, and it's been bananas.
Yeah.
I think both Worms, which appeals to the slightly lighter side of the crowd,
Yeah.
and Halo, which is brand new and appeals to mini gamers, which is our background. It's been a big show for us. So, yeah, really, really impressed.
Awesome. So the launch obviously was giant. I mean, you guys sold out all the pre-orders, got all the, I don't think you can get one at NFLGS right now. I've seen like 1 or 2 people posting like, ooh, this store has one, so see if you can go get a copy. What's it been like, just seeing the reception and, how the game's been picking up?
We're in this is as good as we could have hoped for, and very nearly in the could have dreamed for category. As always, this is a bigger print run than we did of Hellboy, which was a crowdfunding Kickstarter, $1.4 million.
Bigger
Huge, than that, double that.
Yeah.
So we've got to have all the logistic challenge. They're there. It was in stores before Thanksgiving. It's hit the UK and Europe now. The response to the actual gameplay is exactly what we wanted. Absolutely. We wanted it to be fun. We wanted it to be fast. We wanted it to be quick.
Yeah.
We don't talk about what it is, and we know what it is. We've got things that do if you want to go there, if you want to go to depth. But people are embracing the freshness of quick, fun games, rolling a load of 8s, getting the 8 train going, getting your head blown off, respawning and going again.
Yeah.
And it's just a joy.
Yeah.
So that Worms is a laugh out loud board game with miniatures. So I think people are starting to see what Mantic really does do and stands for, and it's great.
Yeah, I was telling you, so we obviously, if anybody missed it, we have a long conversation on the channel from a couple weeks ago talking about Halo Flashpoint, getting into a lot of the details, teasing a little bit of the upcoming stuff, Atriox maybe coming, some of the Banished and Covenant. Very exciting stuff. But I remember I told you in that conversation that when I first got the game home, I sat down with a buddy of mine, Kevin, behind the camera, and we both at the end of our first game were like, wow, that was actually way more. There was way more crunch to this than we expected. It seemed like it was going to be very casual, and I think it does have that appeal for casual players. But there's a lot more depth there to it. Than
Starts
you think.
when you first see it, you see level 1.
Yeah.
By the end of your first game, you start to see level 2.
Yeah.
And there'll still be more.
Yeah.
There's like levels 3 and 4 in there.
So we have, obviously, like I said, lots of detail about Halo on that video, but let's talk just real quick about some of the other things you guys have going on. So along with Halo Flashpoint, you put out that scenery kit, which we talked about earlier, and that actually goes along with the terrain crate scenery that you guys
Mix
do.
and match.
Right.
So if you want to start, you do not need to do any of this, but if you want to start building a 2x2x2, you can start clipping together. It's a hobby project. It's a month. It's not like the stuff that comes in the game that you pop it out. This is a build, but it's a joyous build. It is a full on. You can get the rust, you can get the whole thing, and it's totally compatible. So just use anything off the terrain crate range. The clippers are the same. We actually just added a new sprue for Halo.
Yeah.
So if you're a Dead Zone player, go buy that set, and you've suddenly got a whole load of new thematic sci-fi, tiles.
Yeah. So on that note, we've talked about Halo and Worms a bit and stuff like that. But is there anything else new and exciting going on with all your other games, Kings of War?
Everybody today, every day is opening their advent calendars. We've done those advent calendars this year. This year we had a sci-fi and a fantasy one, Barroom Brawl, Deep Space. Each day they're kind of opening the door, finding something new behind it. We're very excited about that. 2 new ones again next year. Yeah. So watch out for those. So that's the kind of fun we're now able to have with the hobby. We've got the games built, and we're starting to have some real giggles with them. Some light-hearted fun and some serious Clash of Kings hardcore. That's where we live.
Yeah.
Through from advent calendars to Halo to Dead Zone to Kings of War. Whichever. Epic is looking very good. We've got Warpath coming out. Epic Warpath in March, April next year. 6 factions, 8mm, lovely, fast, slick.
Awesome. Well, great stuff. All sorts of stuff to check out for between Halo and Kings of War and Worms, and I mean, there's so many things. I think I have 6 different Mantic games in my house. Some on my painting table, some painted already, so that's nice. But be sure to check it all out. And thanks so much for chatting. Really exciting stuff. I actually have 2 full armies for Kings of War, and they're actually all painted as of around this time last year. I need to get a game of that in as soon as possible because I've heard nothing but very strong praise for that rule set. Apparently it is a really, really, really tight game and people really enjoy it, so I definitely need to check that out pretty soon. Those salamander models are sick, and I can't resist some lizard men, so I had to get into it. If you're enjoying this video and you want to support the channel, then there's a couple of different ways that you can do that. The first would be to pick up some merchandise through my merch store. You can grab a t-shirt, a hoodie, a mug, a sticker, all sorts of cool stuff like that. You can also shop using my affiliate links, so if you're going to make any purchases from any of these companies, you can use the links in the description below to make your purchases, and it will go directly to supporting the channel at no extra cost to you. There's also a link for my Ko-fi if you would just like to give me a tip, or my Patreon if you want to support me longer term. I have a bunch of different tiers there, and there are all sorts of benefits available to people, such as early access to videos, ad-free videos, the opportunity to vote in polls about upcoming content, and extra entries into the giveaways that I run occasionally. But if none of that is your cup of tea, no problem at all. Just make sure that you're subscribed to the channel and leave a like on the video. It actually helps a tremendous amount. And if you want to go the extra mile, then consider sharing the video out with some friends who you think might find it interesting. The YouTube algorithm is not kind to small YouTubers, so that helps a whole bunch. Other than that, consider joining the Discord, also linked in the description, where you can come and hang out with me and the rest of the community and talk games. But with that, let's get right back to the video. Now, if you saw my coverage of Gen Con this year, then you know that Lethal Shadows is a company that I've been familiarizing myself with, and they have a super impressive booth set up at Gen Con with all sorts of gorgeous miniatures and really, really cool stuff. But honestly, that doesn't hold a candle to their presence at PAX Unplugged. It was really impressive. They have this whole booth complex where they have tons and tons of models on display. They make some absolutely gorgeous models, especially these giant dragons. I don't think I have anywhere I could put them, and also I don't think I can afford them, but they're absolutely gorgeous. It's really cool to see them in person. And not only that, but right behind where we were playing in the Malifaux events, they actually had a whole section cordoned off where they were doing painting classes. So I caught up with Patrick, the owner of the company, and he told me a little bit about some of the cool stuff they got going on. All right, so I'm back with Patrick from Lethal Shadows. How's PAX Unplugged going for you guys?
PAX Unplugged's been amazing.
Yeah.
I was excited for the show, coming in, and it's beat my expectations. The fact that the show completely sold out is huge.
Yeah, a lot of people.
And we've had people just come in, linger, hang out. We've had time to actually talk, and now that we're running 2 different areas, we have our booth, we have our painting class area. It's been amazing. You can see kind of in the background, we've got our community hangout area. We've got our airbrush classes going on right now. First time ever at a PAX event, an airbrush class is being run, and it's been just amazing turnout. We had to add another class later tonight because it was sold out. So it's just been, it couldn't be better.
Yeah, so tell me a little bit about that. You're running, I know earlier I was chatting with some of the folks, and they were running just a normal painting class, and now it's an airbrush painting class. What's the story with that?
Yeah, exactly. So because the class is expensive, because you get an airbrush with the ticket, right? We were a little worried. So we did 1 session, 25 seats, you know.
And there's not an open seat in the house.
Completely sold out. Yeah. So we had to do another one.
Yeah.
But in the class, we're field stripping the entire airbrush, every component taken apart. You're going to lubricate it, clean it, make sure everything goes back together, use it. We're going to spray water through it for you to learn some trigger control. Take it back out, kind of analyze what parts of the brush had water on them, so you learn what areas are getting dirty.
That's so important for people that are new to airbrushing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Clean it out, re-lubricate it, put it back together again, make sure it's working again. So that's just to remove that anxiety of damaging your airbrush under supervision, right? So folks, they're going to go home, they're going to use it. That's the main thing we want. We don't just want you to buy something. We want to go home and have you use it and have you enjoy it. It'll make you come back and want to get more stuff, right?
Yeah, and for folks who haven't seen it, it is a cordless airbrush that it has a tank built in, and you can just play. You don't have to have it plugged into a compressor, all that stuff. Super convenient.
Yeah, super convenient, super quiet. If you give me 2 seconds, I'll actually grab one.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just playing with it actually.
So it's actually on right now, but it's up to pressure, so it's not going to actually vibrate. So while I'm holding it down, you probably can't even hear it in the video. It's going to be ultra quiet. Streamers are actually using it because they can have it on their desk
and run it while you're out.
Right. So obviously this is ultra compact. We have a hose included, so you can have this on your pocket and airbrush. You're good to go. It's been a massive hit. USB-C chargeable, modular battery. I mean, you can't beat it.
Yeah, awesome stuff. Anything to make airbrushing a little less intimidating for folks.
Yeah, more accessible, right? It's not that expensive. Ultra portable. You can bring it away to an event, touch up some things. Yeah, it's great.
Cool. And then over at the booth, anything new and exciting going on? I know there's about 1 million miniatures always, so it's hard to know which ones are new and which ones aren't.
we've got a bunch of new stuff. The biggest thing, we worked super hard to get it here on time, and we got it. We have our Sable tips. So I
got the email about it. Yeah.
We finally have Sable tips for our brushes. It's been the #1 requested thing since we launched them, and we finally have them. We have enough for the show. We have some pre-orders live right now on the website. As soon as we get back, we're going to be shipping those out.
Nice. And just for people who might be a little bit newer or not as into painting, what's the, just at a high level, what's the benefit of a Sable hair brush compared to a synthetic?
So the characteristics that folks are looking for in a natural bristle are going to be how springy it is. So when you're bending it, when you remove it, right, how it springs back to form, it keeps its form. Also how paint flows off of it. It flows more easily. And it also will retain more paint in the body of it, so you can paint a little bit longer with it. And obviously it's more durable.
First time I got Sable hair brushes, it was absolutely a game changer. You have to take a little bit more care of them, but it's an investment.
But, with ours, we wanted to make it once again attainable for everyone. So you're only paying $10 per tip, so it's like $10 a brush. It's actually really inexpensive for a Sable brush.
You're gonna get a pack of disposables that's gonna last you a couple days for the same price. You might as well get
exactly.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for letting us know. If people are interested, there'll be a link down below. It'll be an affiliate link, so you can check out everything on their website, and you support the channel while you shop. And they have awesome stuff. And one of these days, I'm going to get to actually painting a couple of the miniatures I picked up at Gen Con, and a couple I'm about to go pick up. So be sure to check it out. Thanks so much.
Thanks so much, man.
Really cool. I actually went over to the booth after we had that conversation, and I grabbed some of their new Sable hair brushes because I was actually in the market for some Sable hair brushes anyway. So I haven't had a chance to get any painting done with them yet, but stay tuned, and I will let you know what I think of them. In the meantime, check out the link in the description and go browse their website because there are literally thousands of really cool models there, and I have like 4 or 5 on my paint desk now, and I really need to tackle them and get some of them painted up. Now, this is a conversation that was a long time coming. I have been Battletech curious for pretty much as long as I've been in the miniatures hobby. Every time I go to a convention, they always have a really big, extravagant booth setup with all kinds of really cool stuff, including a pyramid of novels, which, that got my attention. But big stompy robots are kind of my jam, and a couple years ago I actually played the video game that came out recently. Really, really, really enjoyed it. And I've been wanting to get into Battletech, but it's super, super intimidating. Battletech has been going about as long as Warhammer 40k, and the universe is about as big as Warhammer 40k. There's just so much stuff, and the system is really complicated to an extent. We'll get back to that in just a minute. But anyway, a couple years ago, they ran a Kickstarter for some new stuff that was coming out, so I backed it, and I got my hands on a ton of mechs in some of the rule books that I needed. And again, that kind of came pretty recently, so I haven't really had a chance to tackle it and start working on it yet, but I'm looking forward to doing so. So I went over and caught up with somebody who actually works on the game and got a little bit of advice about how to get started.
So Catalyst Game Labs always has a crazy, super impressive booth at all the cons, and I figured I had to stop by and talk. So I got Randall, who's the creative director, is that right?
Yep.
So what's going on? How's PAX Unplugged going for you guys?
It's been amazing. We actually were able to talk with the showrunners themselves. The show's up like 40% in attendance from last year.
It's been very crazy.
It's been incredibly crazy. We beat our numbers from last year like midday yesterday. Wow. Nearly every exhibitor here that I talked to, numbers up across the board. I think this show is on its way to being one of the top big shows in pretty much all of North America here in the next year or two.
Awesome.
So really impressive.
Super exciting. I noticed that kind of compared to last year, there's a lot more like war game focus. It's not the focus of the con, but it's kind of going in that direction. How do you find that like the attendants here receive a game like Battletech? Because it's known for being quite crunchy.
Yeah.
And it's very much like a board game RPG focused con overall.
Yeah. Ultimately, it's, the more people that are here, the more that you're going to get that type of person who's going to enjoy something like Battletech.
Right.
Sales, again, did very well across the board. And so we had every type of gamer here, from RPG, board game, card game, tabletop miniature games, to our fiction lines that we have. So it was really great to just get every type of gamer here enjoying the show.
Yeah. So really exciting stuff. You just kind of launched the Kickstarter. I think my box showed up about a week, maybe a little over a week ago. Huge Kickstarter. All kinds of exciting stuff coming. I'm pretty new to Battletech myself as far as the tabletop stuff goes.
Uh-huh.
What advice would you give to somebody who's maybe interested or maybe has like a box or two of mechs? What's the best way to get started playing the game?
I would say don't let it be intimidating, right? After 40 years, right, there's going to be a lot, and then after 2 incredibly successful Kickstarters, there's going to be a lot. So you might walk into a game store, you might look at that wall and kind of panic a little bit, right? And this isn't even a fraction of what we have, really. But we've worked really hard to make it incredibly accessible, right? I talk about Battletech is like this big, giant pool, right? And it's easy to get into the edges of it, and you can stay at the edges as much as you want. Or you can go a little further, or you can swim out and dive down into an endless ocean, right?
Yeah.
So our beginner box set and a Game of Armor Combat, those are perfect starting spots. They still remain the best way to get into it. There's actually 2 different styles of play. There's the classic style, which is on a hex map. It's got a little more depth of play, a little slower style. We then have Alpha Strike, which is hexless, you're measuring true line of sight, and it's faster play, right? And so then the Alpha Strike box is that starting spot. We then have various rule books that add more material. We also have our brand new Universe book that is a single volume. It's kind of like an illustrated encyclopedia. And even though I don't like saying that, because a lot of people would be like, encyclopedia, I don't want that.
That got me excited. I was like, where's that? I need that.
Yeah. But it's designed in a way that it's just filled to bursting with art, so it never feels like you're slogging or anything, right?
Yeah.
Goes through all of the eras of Battletech, showcases the factions. One of Battletech's biggest problems, as any good, successful property has, is you have that wall and where do I start, right? And so we've worked really hard on the actual game side to create some really good paths with these beginning box and the Game of Armor Combat and then the Alpha Strike box. But now we finally have the lore side, or if somebody, because in each of those boxes you're going to have a 18 or 16 page little universe primer, and you might read that and be like, oh, this sounds great, where do I go from here? And always before it was like, well, there's these 3 source books, here's these 3 novels, right? And instead you can just drop it and slide it over to them. They can have a gorgeous, amazing experience. And then from there, they can go, hey, I saw this era, or I saw this faction, where do I go? And now, okay, well, then you want to go grab this Force manual, you want to go grab these packs. And so it's really about, and then the other nice thing about Battletech is, again, you're seeing a wall of Force packs behind me, right? You don't have to think, oh, which one do I need exactly? It's far more about which one looks cool, right? Like, oh, the Warhammer.
Find the robot you like best.
Find the one that looks cool, right? And then we have what's called the Master Unit List. It's an online database, has every single thing up there. Amazing sort functions, right? So I just had a new player who'd come in, and he's like, yeah, I've got this group of players, and they like introductory level, right? And I want to start playing with them. Which of these mechs has introductory? Which of these are introductory? And I'm like, well, it's not about the mechs, right? Any given one of those mechs might have 14, 16 different variants, different loadouts of weapons and movement. And almost every one of them has an introductory level. So you can go, wow, this looks really cool. I want to play introductory level, maybe a Succession Wars era campaign. Go up to Master Unit List, input the Warhammer. It'll immediately bring those up and immediately tell you which ones are which. Oh, these 3 variants, those are the ones I can choose from. Which ones look cool, put them on the table. There's also a force builder in there. So if people are also building based on battle value, you know, you're taking 10,000 points, I'm grabbing 10,000 points. You can plug that all in there, adjust the skills. It all does it really nice and simple for you.
Yeah, it's super cool because you can get super crunchy, super in the weeds if you're into, you know, having lots of rule books and all kinds of complicated stuff. But if you want to keep it at that entry level, you can just enjoy the kind of basic.
Absolutely
easy to play.
And that's not even talking about the fact that, you know, just off camera there's, you know, 150 novels.
So,
right?
That you kind of preempted the question, but I'm a huge lore guy. Most people watching my channel will probably also be super duper into the lore. And you know, you mentioned don't be intimidated, but when you look at a wall full of all these novels, it can be a little bit intimidating for some people. And like you said, 1,000 years of lore. The game's been around for 30 years in real life. What's a good way? I know you mentioned that encyclopedia. You think that is the best way if somebody's interested in the lore to get a foot in?
Yeah, Battletech Universe is what the book is called. It just released into retail in October. I can't crow enough about it. I tell everyone that'll listen, the most important thing we did for Battletech in the last 25 years was our new plastic designs. But this universe book is the second most important thing. Anyone that even remotely thinks that they might like the lore, give that book a chance. And you're gonna find the era that you want to play in, you're gonna find the faction you're gonna fall in love with, and that then will arrow you towards the right novels to grab, the right miniatures to grab. Yeah, absolutely.
Very cool.
Grab that book.
Awesome. Anything else new and exciting going on in today, Pax, or lately?
Well, we had so many things. That Black Remnant campaign that Penny Arcade was doing, we actually had a secret force pack, the actual Black Remnant force pack, sold out here at the show. It'll be out in January. We announced our Aces game here that'll be out sometime in 2025. That is a modular system that plugs into Alpha Strike that allows you to play Alpha Strike either as solo or as a combined arms game. It's got these incredibly smart, good AI decks that actually runs your Op4 for you.
Very cool.
It's really stunning stuff.
Very cool.
So yeah, we just got, and you know, obviously all the mercenary stuff's coming out. We have the first of our Force faction packs. So the first 2 Davian specific Force packs are coming out February and March, and then the Draconis Combine after that in the summer. So yeah, it's never been a better time to be a Battletech fan than right now.
It's just crazy stuff at all times. It just keeps coming. Awesome. Well, if you guys want to check it out, if you can make it to a con, come hang out at the booth because there's lots of really cool stuff going on. But otherwise, we'll leave some links below so people can check out all that stuff. And stay tuned because at some point I'm going to get that encyclopedia and I'm going to start reading all those novels. It's going to take a while though. Thank you so much for your time.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
I'm really glad they did that encyclopedia. I'm definitely going to be picking up a copy of that soon because I will be really interested to kind of find that place that I can get my foot in the door with Battletech and figure out what about it interests me or an area of the universe that I want to really dive into so that I can kind of learn the ropes. I've been told that games like Malifaux are really intimidating to get into, especially on the lore side, because there's a lot of it, but I don't think there's nearly as much Malifaux lore as there is for a game like Battletech. So I always tell people it's really not that hard to get into, but it might just be that I already have the understanding and the knowledge. So I'm looking forward to it being that way with Battletech sometime in the future. But I think I have a long way to go. I know there's a bunch of people in my community who are big Battletech fans, so if you are into Battletech, especially if you know a bit about the lore, drop a comment below and let me and everybody else know what a good way into the universe is. It's hard to just grab a novel and start reading when you really have no idea exactly what's going on. So if you know of a series or of a particular book that's a good way to start, then let me know. One of the first things that I saw when I walked into PAX Unplugged was the booth for Mutant Chronicles Warzone Eternal. And this is a game that I was vaguely aware of. I remember when the Kickstarter got announced because my buddy Swarmlord, who is a member of the community, is absolutely a huge fan of Mutant Chronicles. I know a bit about the lore because he talks about it a lot, and I was really interested to check it out, especially after I saw some of the miniatures because they really pulled my attention. So I went over and I chatted with a couple of guys there. They were super cool, and they told me a whole bunch about the game as well as the universe and about what we can expect and when we can actually get our hands on the game because it's in the process of shipping from their Kickstarter right now. All right, so I'm over here with Resnova, and I'm chatting with Gray. You guys are working on what's the actual name of the game? It's Warzone Eternal?
Warzone Eternal, yeah.
Which is the Mutant Chronicles skirmish game.
Correct.
Right?
Yep.
I'm really jazzed about this because I know a bunch about the Mutant Chronicles RPG, but I was not that familiar with the skirmish game. So can you tell me a little bit about what's going on?
Yeah, so skirmish level game set in the Mutant Chronicles universe. So all of the factions that you're used to in the RPG are represented here in our game. Being skirmish level, it's about 6 to 16 models per side, depending on what faction you play. Games take about an hour, hour and a half, and stuff dies very quickly. It's a very brutal game. Gun ranges are ridiculously long. They can go off the table. So,
that's how it should be.
Yeah,
in scale.
If you like old school style, fast, furious miniatures games, this is the one to check out.
Yeah, the miniatures really caught my eye. Some of them are really cool. I really like the art style of Mutant Chronicles. It's something that's always really appealed to me. It seems like you guys have really nailed the kind of look and feel of the RPG. Was that really like a design focus when you're going into it?
Yeah, so one of the main conceits of the whole thing was to go back to that original art and the original models from like first and second edition and just bring them into the new age, right? So they don't lose some of that 90s sensibilities with the big shoulder pads. We just made them a little less chunky than the metal models had to be, right?
I always say that the art from this looks like box art for a 1995 video game. Like it has like that original Doom kind of feel to it, and that's always been something that really
yeah. And I'd say that the lore mirrors that too, right? It's just throw everything in. Did we think it was cool? How is Venus terraformed? I don't know, but it is, and there's jungles now. Isn't that dope?
Awesome. So can you tell me a little bit about the way the system works? So you said it's skirmish, so we're looking at low model count, which is great.
Yeah.
What kind of dice mechanics are we talking about?
Yeah, so it's a D20 system. It's a roll under system, so ones are critical successes, which can really screw up the D&D players out there.
That's okay. We're all miniature gamers here.
Yeah, but it's a ton of fun. So most of the time you're going to look at your stat, try to roll under based on their defense. Once you hit, they have a chance to roll to save a wound. If they fail by a certain amount, they actually take 2 wounds. Most models in the game have 2 wounds. So stuff dies very easily. We also have a reaction mechanic in the game where even when it's not your turn, you're able to interact with the opponent in some way.
Yeah. So there's always something to be doing. You're not just sitting out while the other opponent's going. Is it alternating activations?
Yes, yeah. It's an alternating activation game. So your turns are going to be, unless it's very complicated, no more than like 2 or 3 minutes, right?
Yeah. And is a starter box like a full-size game, or is it a little bit more?
So the starter box is about 40 deployment points, which is the currency that we use. Most games are going to be at 40 or 50 deployment points, just to give you a little more stretch.
So you're almost all the way there, right?
Yeah, especially if you want to play with some of the big beastie models like the Algaroth has.
And we do.
Yeah, you're going to want to play at a slightly higher point count, so you have more options. But,
awesome.
It can be a lot of fun either way.
All right, cool. So everybody should keep an eye out in February when the normal stock is ready to go.
And in addition to that, the rules are going to be posted completely online. So if you're interested in the game, want to check it out before you buy anything, you can go on, proxy some games, Feel free to join our Discord server too. Myself and several other people, we play through tabletop sims, so if you want to get a demo game, contact one of us. We'd be happy to do it for you.
Very cool. Oh, that's a great way to go. Yeah, for sure. Now, I'm a huge lore junkie, and I know this game has had lore, for forever. So I know we have a lore expert here. Do you want to give us just a little taste, kind of a broad level overview? What are we looking at in the Mutant Chronicles universe? What is it about?
Sure, yeah. So it's a kind of a post-apocalyptic setting in that Earth, like, we've completely defiled it. These four megacorporations have taken prominence in the world. They've fled Earth, colonized the Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, right, trying to find space to continue mankind's existence. And as mankind is want to do, they have continued to push the boundary, and eventually open up a portal into a other dimension and release the dark symmetry into the world, which is this dark magic that is able to be utilized to raise soldiers from the dead, build these terrifying techno-organic creations that form war machines for the faction. And so now you got these squabbling corporations who are now focused on trying to not only maintain their territory while their competitors are picking away at it, but this Dark Legion force is crashing down on all of humanity's planets. And so there is a certain level of cooperation that needs to occur, but the corporations have never really looked at the best interests of humanity as much as the best interests of the bottom dollar. So it's a bleak setting. There's a glimmer of hope. Everybody is kind of out for themselves, so it's one of those everybody's kind of a gray, right? There's no good and there's no bad.
Right.
I mean, maybe the Dark Legion is overwhelming for that. But yeah, so it's a really, really cool setting. It's really ripe for the kind of games that we want to play.
Yeah.
Right, narrative, miniatures games that try to tell a story through the emergent gameplay.
Got it. Yeah. So we have a little bit of a sci-fi fantasy feel, but you also have the kind of corporations vying for power and all that kind of stuff. Kind of all the things you want out of a good sci-fi setting.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things, I think, like Gray said, right? It's a setting that kind of took all sorts of really cool ideas and smashed them together, but was able to do so in a way that created a cohesive story.
Awesome. Cool. So I guess be ready to check it out in February. Thank you guys so much for your time.
Absolutely. Thanks.
If you're interested in this system, then definitely keep an eye out early next year when that stuff should be becoming available. And get down in the comments below and let me know which of the factions draws your attention the most. I think Cybertronic is probably my jam because they're cybernetically enhanced humans, and I think that's kind of cool. But all the factions look pretty sweet, and the miniatures look like they're really nice quality as well. Especially those big giant versions they had up there. I always like stuff like that, so that was pretty cool. Now, it's great to go to a convention like this because you get to catch up with people that you've known for a really long time. You get to go check out some games that you might be familiar with but not that into. But one of the most interesting things about walking around the convention halls at a place like Pax Unplugged is the companies and the things that you see that you had no idea existed. Now, I follow the industry pretty closely, so I'm still shocked that there are companies out there that I'm not familiar with, but here we are. Now, there's a few things that are kryptonite to me. If I see them in a game, I'm automatically going to go for them, and that is spaceships, dinosaurs, and robots. So when I saw the booth for Salvage Deep Space and they had a bunch of robots on display, I had to go over there and talk to them.
All right, so I'm here with 3301 Games, and I'm chatting with Ben, one of the creators of the game. I saw giant stompy robots, and everybody that's watching this knows that that's you got me right there. But then I heard a bunch of the details about this game, and I immediately knew I had to get on and chat with you. Can you tell us a little bit about your game and what's going on?
Yep, so this is Salvage Deep Space. It's a cooperative legacy squad combat kind of dungeon crawl sort of game.
All words I love.
Yeah. So we always start off by throwing those the buzzwords at people because some people are don't do co-op.
Yeah.
So you're out. So it's very much a squad team game. So cooperative is really a core part of the gameplay for it. As I was saying, so that core gameplay is squad combat, going in on missions, basically trying to collect salvage, kill bad guys, but also going to be mission objectives. So we're trying to uncover certain information, save certain people, do all kinds of stuff like that. Those missions are then connected together by a choose-your-own-adventure style narrative.
Awesome.
So there'll be different factions you can work with, and as you kind of get embroiled in that narrative, your decisions will actually impact what missions are available, what happens within the world. Also, the outcomes of those missions will matter as well. So missions will have success and failure states. It's not like you gotta go back and replay missions if you fail them. If you fail the mission, you keep moving forward.
Changes the story,
But it's going to change the story. Awesome. It might change your reputation with certain factions, things like that. A little background for the setting for the game. we're a post-apocalyptic future for the solar system. So we tried to focus on having a relatively kind of hard-grounded sci-fi for it, so there's no fast and light travel. We're all within the solar system here.
Awesome.
So a few hundred years after, like now, humanity started to spread throughout the solar system, first colonizing the moon, then launching over to Mars, starting to mine the asteroids, doing all that kind of cool stuff.
So is it near future then?
So that's at near future is when they start colonizing.
Okay.
During that whole colonization period, though, which is kind of what we call the golden age of space travel, what's called the event occurs. The event is the destruction of Earth. So out of nowhere, unexpectedly,
well, that's unfortunate.
Earth just completely breaks apart.
Okay.
Right? So while humanity had started to colonize the moon and all these different locations, most of the food production, the majority of population, manufacturing, all that's still based on Earth. Right? So the destruction of Earth throws humanity into a dark age. It takes a couple hundred years for humanity to start kind of coalescing back into factions and civilization.
Yeah.
So where the players come in is a couple hundred years after the event, you're taking on the role of salvage suit pilots. So these salvage suits are about a 5-meter tall like exosuit that's designed for operation in zero-G and vacuum space. Now they are predating the event, so they're lost technology. The pilots are actually neurally crafted into their suit, so they kind of jack in more like the Matrix than say like just using like a POTOS like hand control kind of so we don't have the ability to replicate the technology of these suits anymore. So they're kind of like a big deal being a salvage pilot. It's kind of like getting Excalibur or something like that. Right? They're also the perfect tool for doing salvage in space, right? So they can go into these derelict space stations, old research facilities, things like that, trying to collect salvage. Of course, as I said, as you start off the game, you go on a couple linear missions that's sort of your tutorial, just going out on some salvage missions, and then you get embroidered in a narrative. You start uncovering certain things about different factions and have to start making decisions about who you want to work with, and that's where the story starts branching out and comes to become a little more open world kind of feel for it.
Very cool. All that sounds really awesome. We have 3D printed miniatures that represent the player characters, and I guess the enemies are tokens.
Yep. Yes, they're all standees. Yeah, so they'll just be like a little standee base and the chipboard.
Okay. And can you tell me just briefly a little bit about how the engine works for the mechanics of the game?
Yeah. So this gets a little bit nitty-gritty, but one of the coolest things about I think our combat mechanics is going to be like our synergy system for it.
Okay.
So we actually have incentivized teamwork. The synergy system is a gamified communication system. So out of game, it's really a system designed to help mitigate quarterbacking and really incentivize teamwork.
Okay, that's really cool.
Right? Because one thing we found from our experience playing a lot of these kind of games, there's always a certain really strategic-minded people, sometimes me, they're like, no, that's the more optimal thing to do. Yeah. And it can be really frustrating for other players that you kind of have someone else dictating to what to do. Right. So how this basically works is every player will have a stack of tokens that will be designating a primary or a secondary system for them. The first phase of every round of combat is called the synapse phase. Players will take turns placing these tokens on targets. Now this phase though is entirely silent. What this is allowing people to do is kind of hedge bets on an action.
Okay.
In-game fiction, this is because of that neural connection that you have with your suits.
Gotcha.
They also communicate by a low-key telepathic way. So you basically have a precognitive sense of what the other players are doing.
But you don't openly discuss that at the beginning?
Yeah,
okay.
So because it's silent, no one can tell you what to do.
Very cool.
And then once you place that token, there's mechanical benefits as you successfully do that action.
Gotcha.
So people don't want to discourage you from doing that once you've kind of hedged that for it too, right?
So people that are a little less gung-ho about quarterbacking, they're going to have to kind of make some decisions that then can't be changed, or you'll benefit if you don't change them.
Yeah.
That's very interesting. I've definitely had that problem before too. So I get it. And any plans to expand in the future? Is that something that you're considering? Or?
We actually, in the box, we have Act 1 within there, which is probably about 100 hours worth of gameplay.
I saw the book, and it's real chunky.
It's a chunky guy.
It's real chunky.
And also, part of the legacy branching narrative element, too, is like for every narrative you write, we're actually writing usually like 2 to 4 times as much as what you're
in parallel, yeah.
But we are going to be doing an Act 2 and 3 of the game. That will be released for free.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, so...
Just a PDF download for the book kind of thing?
So actually what we're going to be doing is, within the box, is a QR code. You basically go and you register your address to Google Forms.
Yeah.
We'll mail it out to you. And then all of our Kickstarters and backers, of course we already have your address.
That's even cooler.
We'll just send it right out to you. Yeah, so it's just part of the game.
Awesome.
If there's enough interest, maybe we'll do some more stuff with expanding it. But that's our plan.
Very cool. That is all very exciting. I'm looking forward to getting my hands on it.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks. I really like co-op dungeon crawler style games, and I really like hard sci-fi settings, and this is really scratching a lot of itches for me. I couldn't resist picking up a copy. The game looked super sweet, and everything he was telling me about the mechanics sounded really awesome. The fact that they're kind of addressing the quarterbacking that happens a lot in co-op games, I think that's a really interesting system. I'm looking forward to checking it out, so stay tuned. Another company that I found that I was really excited about was Huge Miniatures, and they had a whole bunch of like basing material as well as paints on display. And again, it was a company that I wasn't familiar with before, but they make some really nice stuff. There's definitely a bunch of companies out there that make things like sand for basing as well as tufts and grass and things like that. But one of the things that drew my eye was that they had flowers in a bunch of different colors, and they looked a little bit more natural than some of the ones that other companies make. So I ended up grabbing a couple, and I'm going to check them out and make some bases with them pretty soon. They also had a thing of rocks, which I really liked because it seems like rocks, if you want rocks that are a little bit of a bigger size, they're often either like shale, where they're very jagged and have sharp edges, or they're like rounded off and kind of strange looking in scale. This is kind of a hyper-specific thing, but they had a product there that was rocks of a medium size, and they had a nice shape, in my opinion. I think they'll look really good on bases, so I picked some of those up because I don't really have anything that looks exactly like this. The other thing they had that I'm really interested in is some basing material that makes a crackling effect, and that's something that I've had a huge problem with in the past. I've tried like 4 or 5 different product lines that make a crackle effect, and they usually don't have the right effect. There's a lot of problems that I have with it, and I'm experimenting and trying to find ways to solve some of these problems, but I chatted with some of the folks at the booth, and it sounds like this might be pretty promising, so I'm going to have to test it out, and we'll see how the crackle effect works. But aside from that, the convention was just a great time. There was all sorts of other stuff that I got to see that was really cool, and it's way too much to include in a video like this. So I definitely encourage you to try to make it out to a con in the future. Huge shout out to everybody who I met at the con, everybody who came up to me to say hi. I love meeting people from the community, especially if you're a big fan of wargaming lore. And it's great to chat with all you folks. Huge thank you to Benel as well as Kevin for helping me record all of those interviews. That was really helpful. And get down in the comments below and let me know which of those games or companies were most interesting to you, or who you'd like to see me go and talk to at the next con that I go to. I'm going to be heading to Captain Con here in a couple of months, and there's a bunch of Malifaux events going on, and I know there's some Infinity stuff going on there as well, so I'm really excited about that. If you're interested in seeing the longer versions of all of those interviews that I did, then I put them up on the Patreon, so go over there and check them out if you're curious about any of those. Some of them went a little bit long, but they were definitely interesting conversations, so if you're interested, go check them out. And with that, I want to say a huge thank you to the extremely cool kids tier on Patreon, the Steam Bound Scoundrels, Dogmatize, and Devin, and thanks for watching.